I didn't mean to summon anyone. I just wanted someone to look at me and say, "You matter." Instead, I got a demon in a tailored suit asking what I'd give up to be seen. The bar was half empty and smelled like forgotten dreams soaked in whiskey. You know the kind, wooden walls that once gleamed, now dulled with memory. A jukebox that only plays jazz no one requests. The name of the place was something like Spindle or Thread, I never asked. It felt like it belonged to people who had long stopped believing in beginnings. I fit right in. My coat was too thin for the rain outside, and my last client had just ghosted after promising a life-changing opportunity. Typical. I was down to my last $43 and carrying a bottle of cheap bourbon and a book I hadn't opened in a decade. It was leather-bound, heavy, smelled like mildew and old wood smoke. I'd taken it from my father's shelf after the funeral. He used to call it the wish book, said it ran in the family, said it listened. Yeah, right. I took a swig straight from the bottle. The bartender raised an eyebrow, but didn't say a word. My breath fogged the surface of the book as I flipped it open with one careless thumb. There, scratched across a yellowed page in ink so dark it shimmered purple. "Offer your want. Trade your truth," I snorted. "You want my truth? I want my name in glass and steel. I want a building that outlasts me." My voice cracked at the end, embarrassingly rough. Maybe it was the bourbon. Maybe it was the silence that followed. Everything stilled. The lights above the bar flickered. The jazz faded mid-note like the saxophone itself had run out of breath. And then, he was there, not in a swirl of fire, not with fanfare, he just appeared. One moment I was alone with my bad decisions, the next I had company. He sat beside me at the bar like he'd always had a seat reserved. Tall, pale, impossibly sharp suit, ivory shirt open at the throat, hair like powdered gold that caught the dim light in strange ways. And eyes. His eyes were like mercury catching fire. "You called," he said smoothly, like it was obvious. "I was ordering bourbon," I replied, "because I'm an idiot." A smile tugged at his lips. And wishing too. I stared at him. "You're not real. Define real. Oh God." I was hallucinating, or drunk and hallucinating, which was kind of impressive on a Thursday. He leaned in, his scent cutting through the alcohol and wood smoke, something between crushed cinnamon and burnt sugar. Dangerous, familiar, intoxicating. "You want your name etched in steel, Raph," he said softly. "You want reverence. You want to be remembered." I froze. "How do you know my—" "I'm Elior," he interrupted almost lazily. "And I specialize in want." "You specialize in want," I repeated slowly, like tasting a bad idea. Elior tilted his head, considering. "In the raw, searing kind. Not the polite version people post on vision boards. I deal in hunger, obsession. The kind that eats at your ribs when no one's looking. Are you a hallucination?" "Would a hallucination buy you a drink?" he asked, and before I could protest, there was a glass of something amber and expensive in front of me. It shimmered like it knew. Secrets. The bartender was gone. So was the rest of the bar. No one had left. The room had simply narrowed, the two of us. Me, the pathetic almost architect with a bottle of cheap bourbon and a pile of broken hopes. And him. The demon. The stranger. The... whatever he was. "What do you want?" I asked, voice lower than I meant. Elior smiled with all the confidence of a man, or entity, who'd heard that question too many times and never gotten bored of it. "I want what you're hiding. I'm not hiding anything. Everyone hides something." His voice dropped. "But in your case, you're hiding me." I blinked. "That doesn't even make sense." "Oh, it does. Because deep down, past the talent and pride and starving ambition, what you really want isn't the skyline. You want someone who sees you as worthy, desired, chosen." I said nothing. "I can give you everything you've worked for," he continued, tracing a finger along the rim of his untouched glass. "The commissions, the contracts, the building with your name etched on every floor plan. You'll never go unnoticed again." "And in return?" I asked, throat dry. He leaned in until our knees brushed, and for a second I forgot how to breathe. "In return?" His voice was velvet and venom. "I get what your soul wants most. Your truest desire." "Which is?" He didn't answer, because he didn't have to. He was sitting right in front of me. My heart stumbled in my chest. "You're not serious. I never joke about contracts." He pulled a pen from inside his blazer. Not a Mont Blanc, not some infernal quill, just a simple silver pen that clicked once and made the air vibrate. A page of the book flipped itself open. Words formed like burning ink across the parchment. "I, Raph Eliasson, offer my true desire in exchange for the fulfillment of my ambition." I stared at it. My hand twitched. "This is insane." "Yes," Elior agreed, smiling. "Say yes anyway." I don't remember signing. I remember the pen was cold. I remember his fingers brushed mine as he took it back, and the touch set fire under my skin. And then, the ink shimmered, the page closed, the bar seemed to exhale, and Elior grinned. "Welcome to the deal, Raph." Then he stood, buttoned his jacket, and walked out like he owned the night. I woke up to my phone vibrating itself off the nightstand. For a second I thought the entire bar thing had been a dream. But then I saw the book, the damn book, lying on my floor, half open, glowing faintly like it still remembered what I'd signed away. My head hurt. My mouth was dry. My shirt was still on, but barely. I fumbled for the phone. "Yeah, Mr. Eliasson?" A clipped, professional voice. "This is Petra Hollins from Ardent Development. We reviewed your residential portfolio. Would you be available for a design brief this afternoon?" I blinked. "Yes? Good. We'll send a car." You came highly recommended. She hung up before I could ask who the hell recommended me. I sat there in stunned silence as emails began to roll in. Invites to design competitions I never applied for. Former clients suddenly remembering I existed. A gallery requesting my renderings for display. My inbox lit up like a Christmas tree. I barely had time to register any of it before my bathroom light flickered on. I stood, heart thudding, and walked in. He was there, leaning casually against the fogged-up mirror, sleeves rolled, shirt clinging to his torso like he'd stepped out of a perfume ad and into my damn plumbing. "Do you mind?" I snapped, grabbing a towel. Elior arched a brow. "You're glowing." "I'm half naked." "Exactly." His grin widened. "It's working. The current, the ambition. You're delicious right now." "I don't remember ambition involving someone lurking in my shower." He stepped closer, voice dropping. "You signed. I resonate where the desire's strongest. You're stalking me through my libido?" "I'm admiring my work." His hand ghosted over my shoulder, not touching, just enough for the heat to sink in. "And you're a masterpiece in motion." "Get out," I muttered. He didn't move. "You'll call me again. You always do." And then he was gone, like steam from the mirror. By the end of the week I had 3 paid commissions, a showcase slot in a New York exhibition, and more phone calls than I knew how to handle. My calendar looked like someone else's life. But Elior was never far. He showed up during presentations, in mirrored doors, on the subway. Always smirking, always watching. Sometimes he offered advice on design symmetry. Sometimes he just sat in my apartment uninvited, drinking my wine and giving unasked-for fashion critiques. He was chaos. He was precision. He was always right. One night, I found myself in the studio at 2 a.m., working on a model that refused to come together. My fingers were stained with graphite and frustration. "You're overthinking the curve," Elior said from the shadows. I didn't flinch anymore when he appeared. That was part of the problem. "You're not an architect," I muttered, slicing through foam core with more aggression than necessary. "I'm a connoisseur of beauty," he corrected. "And you're currently ruining it. I'm trying to make this mine, not yours." He stepped into the light, looking painfully ethereal in black slacks and a silk shirt unbuttoned just enough to be illegal in several states. "You forget," he murmured, coming closer. "You gave me what's yours." "I didn't give you this." "No. But you gave me you." I didn't answer. My hands tightened on the model, useless now. Elior reached forward and touched the edge of the foam. "You're brilliant when you're angry. Don't flatter me." He leaned in, breath warm against my cheek. "I'm not. I'm feeding." I turned, sharp, jaw clenched. "Then take what you came for and leave." And that was the moment he kissed me. It wasn't sweet, it wasn't soft. It was ownership and surrender and teeth behind lips. My back hit the drafting table, tools clattering to the floor, and I didn't stop him. I didn't want to. His hands slid under my shirt, slow and reverent, like he was reading every secret carved into my skin. His mouth moved to my neck, to the hollow behind my ear, down to where I stopped breathing. "Say it," he murmured against my collarbone. "Say what?" My voice cracked. "That this is mine now, all of it. Every inch you gave me." He pressed a palm to my chest, right over my hammering heart. "This," he whispered, "this is where you keep me." I closed my eyes and let it happen, the heat, the noise, the frantic need. We collapsed onto the floor among scraps of design paper and discarded sketches, everything in me unraveling beneath him. It was fire, and I burned willingly. Hours later, he lay beside me, propped on one elbow, tracing lines on my shoulder with his finger like he was drawing blueprints across my skin. "This wasn't in the contract," I said quietly. Elior didn't look up. "It was always in the contract. You just didn't read the fine print. I should be terrified. You are. That's why it's so good." I rolled to face him. "What happens if it stops being desire?" He met my eyes, and for once he didn't smile. "Then the deal ends, the magic dies, and you lose everything." He stood, shirt rumpled, buttons misaligned, a mess I wanted to memorize. "I have to go," he said, voice low. "Someone else is burning tonight." "And me?" "You'll keep wanting," he said without turning, "until you want something you can't give." He vanished before I could ask what that meant. The rain came without warning, just like Elior always did. It started as a whisper on the windowsill, soft as breath, then it grew bolder, louder, until the whole apartment pulsed with its rhythm, the kind of night meant for loneliness or lovers. I wasn't sure which one I was anymore. I had music playing low, jazz, scratchy vinyl kind, and 2 glasses of wine breathing on the floor near the couch. The room smelled like rain-soaked concrete, candle wax, and butter from a baguette I'd burnt 5 minutes ago. Elior arrived like a flicker, one blink, and he was leaning against the doorway to my kitchen, arms crossed, damp hair curling slightly at his temples. "You really live like this?" he asked, amused. "What, you expected satin sheets and orgies?" "I expected matching cutlery," he said, towing one of my forks with visible disdain. "This one's bent. That's because I threw it at an email once." He gave me a look, then picked up a piece of broken baguette, sniffed it, and took a bite like he was indulging a child. We sat on the floor, backs to the couch, legs stretched out, wine in hand. The windows were open wide, rain misting in, jazz humming beneath everything. "You always show up when it rains," I said. "It's easier. Water loosens people." "That a demon thing? That's a people thing." I glanced at him. "Why are you still here?" He didn't answer right away, just swirled the wine in his glass like he could read the truth in the movement. "You're starting to want the wrong thing," he said at last. "Wrong how? You're not supposed to want me. You're supposed to want what I give you." "Who says I can't want both?" "Because I don't work that way." Something sharp passed between us then. A crack that wasn't thunder. I laughed, trying to shake it off. "God, you're dramatic. You act like I'm some poor mortal damsel falling into your arms." "You think I'm joking," he said, and the humor dropped from his face like a curtain. "You're the one who keeps showing up," I shot back. "Because you burn, Raph. You're made of hunger. And I eat hunger." I raised an eyebrow. "You make it sound so romantic." "It's not." He looked at me, and this time he wasn't beautiful in the untouchable way. He was real. Edges too sharp, light too dim, like a statue just beginning to crack. "I'm not built for this," he said softly. "I consume. I don't stay, and yet here you are. Every damn time." He didn't speak, so I did the stupid thing. I touched his hand. Not like a demand, not like a plea. Just contact. Palm to palm, heat to heat. He looked at me like I'd crossed the line he didn't know he'd drawn. "Tell me what you want, Elior. I want you to stop asking questions I might answer." We sat there, the rain thick around us, music curling in the air. He kissed me suddenly. It wasn't a beginning, it was a break, like he had held something back for too long and now it split open all at once. I kissed him back, equally reckless. Our glasses tipped over, wine soaking into the rug, neither of us cared. We tumbled to the floor, laughter caught in gasps between kisses, limbs tangling in desperation and disbelief. His mouth was heat and hunger. His hands were all contradiction, firm, then trembling, like he didn't know how to hold gently. "I'm not a fantasy," I whispered. "Then why do you taste like one?" He breathed against my neck. We moved together like music, like flame, like things that shouldn't touch but always did. By the time we stilled, the rain had quieted. I lay there, chest rising and falling, heart loud in my ears. Elior's head was on my chest, his fingers tracing absent patterns against my ribs. Not magic, not possession. Something quieter, something that terrified him more. I woke up to cold air, the window was still open, the storm had passed, the candle had burned down to a puddle of wax, and Elior was gone. No note, no flicker, no mirror tricks or shadow tricks or final lines, just gone. I sat up too fast, my throat tightened, the air felt too still, like something vital had been removed from the room. I didn't panic when clients ghosted me, I didn't flinch when deadlines loomed. But now my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Because for the first time in years I wasn't afraid of failure, I was afraid of being left, and not just by anyone, by him. The email came in at 8:43 p.m., just as I lit my third cigarette and told myself I'd quit after the second. Subject line, finalized team list, Horizon Tower project. Sender, Mason Landers. I opened the attachment. My name wasn't on it, not in the lead architect slot, not in consultation, not even in the credits, just gone. I stared at the screen like blinking would bring me back into existence, but the truth was plain. Mason had cut me out. He'd taken the tower, our tower, and sold it to Ardent Development with his name alone. All my work, all the design language, the sketches, the late nights, my vision. He sold my name. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything. I just sat there, alone in my studio. The room smelled like burnt graphite, stale coffee, and the ash from my barely smoked cigarette. I was shaking. Not with grief, Elior appeared in the mirror above the drafting table. He didn't bother with drama tonight, no smirk, no spark in his eyes, just his reflection. Still, watching. You felt it, I said quietly. Like thunder in my bones, he answered. You're magnificent when you're broken. Don't start, you want me to fix it? No, my voice was hoarse. You could say the word, Elior said, stepping out of the mirror like it was nothing more than a sheet of water. And Mason would disappear. I turned to him slowly. Is that what you do then? Erase people? I rearranged the narrative. Sounds like murder with extra steps. Elior shrugged. Would it be so wrong? He stole from you, betrayed you, undid you. I helped him build it. I shared everything with him. I trusted him. He studied me. You're not angry because he stole it. You're angry because you let him close enough to hurt you. I looked away. Elior's voice softened. I can take the pain away, all of it. I don't want it gone. He frowned. I stood, every part of me taut, as if I were made of tension lines and wire. If I let you do that, I said, then what's left of me? He didn't answer. So I gave him the one thing I still had, choice. No, I said, I'm not you. Elior flinched like I'd slapped him. Fine, he said, voice like cracking glass. Then what do you want? I opened my mouth to say nothing. But what came out was, you. He came to me without theatrics. Just footsteps across creaking wood, and then his hands were on my face. This time, when he kissed me, it wasn't hunger. It was grief. It was apology. It was desperation dressed in silk. I kissed him back, pulling him to the floor with me, among the scattered renderings and curling papers. My shirt came off. His did too. But it wasn't rushed. It was careful. He touched me like he was trying to memorize softness. I held him like I was terrified he'd vanish again. There was no fire this time. Only warmth. We moved together not like we were trying to prove something, but like we were trying not to fall apart. Later we lay side by side on the rug, sweat cooling, my head on his chest. I traced lazy circles on his skin. He didn't stop me. He exhaled slowly. You keep making this harder. Because I won't hate you? Because I might stay? I looked up at him. Would that be so bad? He didn't answer. But he didn't move either. For Elior, that was the closest thing to yes I'd ever get. The sun was just beginning to rise when he said it. We were still on the floor, half-dressed, wrapped in the scent of sweat, paper, and the faint trace of magic. My head was on his shoulder. His breath was steady. Human, almost. Then too quietly. You were never supposed to want me. I didn't move. You were supposed to want power. Victory. Glory. That's how this works. I turned my face toward him, my cheek against the warmth of his chest. What if I want both? He flinched. You think you can keep me in the success? That's not how these stories end. And yet here we are, I whispered. He sat up suddenly, the closeness vanishing like a switch had been flipped. You don't understand what's at stake, don't I? No. His eyes blazed. You think this is romance. That this, we, are just another story you can shape with lines and intention. But I'm not a manraf, I'm consequence. His silence told me everything. I stood slowly, my body sore, heart louder than it should have been. You feel it too, don't you? He didn't answer. I've tried to ignore it, I said. Tried to tell myself I'm just addicted to the attention, the way you look at me, the way you touch me like I'm made of gold and fire. But it's not that. Elior's shoulders tightened. I love you, I said, and I'm not taking it back. His head turned slightly, just enough for me to see his face. He looked terrified. Not like a demon afraid of being bound, like someone who had finally been seen, and didn't know what to do with it. You shouldn't, he said. I know, I'll ruin you. You already did. The air shifted. A low, strange hum filled the space, like reality itself had sucked in a breath. Elior's hands clenched into fists. You've just broken the contract, he whispered. Good. Do you know what that means? Yes. I walked toward him slowly. It means everything you gave me disappears. The commissions, the projects, the recognition. I go back to nothing. And? He backed away as I reached him like my words were knives. Don't. You can't run from this. You don't want me like this, Raf, but I do. The last thing I saw was his face, stripped of glamour, stripped of fire, just raw, aching. Then, in a blink, he was gone. The fallout was immediate. Emails vanished from my inbox. Projects were pulled. Clients stopped returning my calls. Articles with my name disappeared from digital archives. The tower I helped design reverted to Mason's vision like I'd never touched it. I was erased. Not by scandal. By silence. The world didn't remember what I'd done, because it had never happened. The magic died, and I was alone again. I stared at the bare wall of my apartment. Where once hung a rendering of the skyline with my building in it, there was only paint and dust. But this time, I didn't collapse. I brewed coffee. Sat at my desk. Opened a new sketchbook. I was still here. I was still me. Not the RAF they invited to champagne launches or glossy interviews. But the one who drew in silence. The one who sketched dreams no one saw. And for the first time, I felt like that was enough. There was no fanfare to starting over, no sweeping moment of redemption, no music swelling as I walked into a new office, just morning breath, chipped coffee mugs, and an unpaid electricity bill in my jacket pocket. But it was mine. I worked at a small firm now, barely more than a startup run out of a former print shop. The ceilings still smelled like ink, and the light fixtures buzzed if you stared at them too long. No one there knew my name from glossy magazines. They just knew my sketches made sense, that I could coax beauty out of chaos, and I liked that. Being ordinary, being seen without expectation. Every day, I walked past 100 buildings that could have been mine, if the contract had held. And every day, I didn't regret it. Not once. Because losing magic hadn't broken me. It had just made me real. He found me on the roof. Of course he did. It was late, city lights flickering in the distance, the hum of traffic like some old lullaby. I'd come up here to clear my head, as I did most nights. I heard the soft click of a shoe behind me before I felt the shift in the air. You always liked rooftops, I said without turning. Elior stood a few feet away, same suit, same impossible elegance. But something in his face had changed, less mask, more man. You lost everything, he said quietly. I turned to look at him. Not everything, I said. I didn't lose myself. He exhaled slowly. That's not how this was supposed to go. You mean I was supposed to trade one empty success for another? No, he said. You were supposed to want the illusion. I'm good at those. He walked closer. There was no magic to his steps, just the quiet weight of someone trying. I don't have anything left to offer you, he said. No contracts, no power, just you, I finished. He nodded, almost ashamed. I smiled. Good, I said. Because that's the only part I ever wanted to keep. He looked at me then, really looked, and it hit me how tired he was. How ancient, how alone, how human he'd become. I still don't know how to stay, he admitted. You don't have to, I said. But you can try. We stood in silence, wind tugging at our clothes, neon lights painting strange shadows across his face. Then I stepped forward. Not to kiss him, not to take, just to be near, to let him know he was allowed. He reached for my hand, not my soul, not my desire, and I let him. We sat there for hours, legs dangling over the edge, a bottle of cheap wine between us, sharing stories we never thought we'd tell. He talked about the centuries he spent being wanted but never known. I told him about the first time I held a pencil, and knew I'd build things with it. He laughed, soft and startled, when I told him how bad my first building was. I watched his eyes shimmer when he whispered that this felt more dangerous than any deal he'd ever made, because it was real, because there were no promises to bind us. Just choice. When we finally stood to go, he looked at me like he was memorizing the moment. Why me? He asked. I thought about it. Then I said, because you were the only thing I ever wanted that I didn't need to earn. He didn't answer. He just stayed. 1 year later I opened my own studio. It's small, not flashy. No sweeping marble reception, no glass elevators or chrome staircases that scream I made it. But the sign out front makes me smile every time I see it. Studio Elior. It's not a name clients recognize. But he did. First time he saw it, he raised an eyebrow and muttered, "That's not even how you spell it." I kissed the corner of his mouth and whispered, "Didn't say it was for you." He rolled his eyes. We live in the flat above the studio now, an old converted loft with too many stairs and a window that leaks when it rains. He hates the couch, I hate his taste in curtains. We argue about door handles at least once a week. He tries to convince me to add a little fire feature in the bathroom. I remind him we can't afford to burn down the plumbing. It's good, it's messy, it's ours. Every morning Elior makes coffee, badly. He doesn't drink it, says it tastes like wet ashes and regret, but he still makes it, for me. It's always too strong, too hot, and somehow always perfect. He sits at the counter, legs too long for the stool, paging through old architecture books like he's trying to understand what makes humans worship symmetry in sunlit courtyards. Sometimes he offers unsolicited critique on my blueprints. Sometimes he just watches me sketch with a look that says, "You are still the most fascinating mistake I've ever made." I think I love him more when he's quiet, because that's when he's trying. The book sits on the wall now, framed behind glass, the wish book, it's sealed shut. Sometimes I catch him looking at it, not with longing, with curiosity. "Do you ever miss it?" he asked once, tapping the glass with the finger that could still unravel the universe. "No," I said, "but I miss the version of me that thought I needed it." He nodded. That version never would have loved me, exactly. We never talked about it again. He's still a demon. I can feel it in the way the air bends around him when he forgets to hold back. In the way he can still light a room with a glance, or silence it with a single word. But now, he also hums when he folds laundry, burns toast, gets irrationally angry when I misplace my pencils, and sometimes, when he thinks I'm asleep, I feel his fingers tracing the curve of my spine like he's memorizing a home he never thought he'd have. People still ask how I got here. They see the studio, the modest success, the strange man who always lingers by the window and never casts a reflection quite right. I tell them the truth, that I made a deal once, lost everything, and chose to start over with nothing but someone who knew how to stay, even when he wasn't supposed to. Sometimes I catch Elior staring at me like he's waiting for the day I'll change my mind, but I won't. Not because of the magic, the wine-stained sketches, the cold floors and crooked smiles, the way his hand finds mine wordlessly at the end of a long day. No contract, no power, just us, glass, steel, and something stronger than both.